mtaala mpya. Lakini kwa sasa ni kuregeshe kule Mombasa, ambapo waziri wa usalama wa ndani Daktari Waziri Matiang'i anahutubia katika ule mkao wa wabunge ambao wanakutana huko Mombasa kwenye mkutano maalum wa kuangazia majukumu ya bunge la taifa na vilevile bunge la seneti. Wawakilishi katika mabunge hayo mawili wanatathmini vifungu vya sheria kuhusu majukumu ya kila chumba cha uongozi na upitishaji wa miswada ya sheria. Tuelekee huko.
Coordination and synergy. Mr. Speaker, half my case has been made by the previous speakers, but towards the end of my presentation, again, I will humbly raise certain critical issues that I think we need to ponder about as we move forward together. So, since the beginning of the year, Mr. Speaker, the focus has been looking at national development, suggests on coordination and building synergies. And here I begin, Mr. Speaker, by saying very honestly that the challenge we face as a country in terms of managing our development and deployment of resources, number one is very poor coordination and very poor inter-branch relationships. And I will later on explain how we ourselves in the executive branch sometimes have had shortcomings in engaging with the legislative arm of government. And I will bleed from this moment that it's time for us to carefully reflect as a young country that's dynamic and growing. It's time for us to reflect on inter-branch relationships, to understand that our constitution provides for 3 branches of government: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. The legislature is as much government as the executive branch, and vice versa. And we start building a culture of synergizing our efforts and working together and reducing the culture of adversarial relationships that we sometimes build, because they affect the manner in which we deliver on development and the way in which we move forward on the work we do. But the challenges facing the work we do in terms of national development implementation, Mr. Speaker, is the delivery of national government projects in silos. I think it's amazing, and let me confess it here, it's sometimes ridiculous that ministries that occupy one building, that operate from one building, we would spend time writing letters to each other instead, or memos to each other, instead of basically just having a cup of tea. There are several members of parliament who are here who have served as cabinet ministers before, and they know the realities that we are talking about. And time is lost because everyone is working in a corner. And this was actually the basis upon which the president issued Executive Order number 1 of 2019. Secondly, inaccurate reporting on the status of projects. Every time I meet members of parliament, yesterday I had members of parliament from Meru, the report I have in my office on the development projects on the ground and what the members of parliament tell me don't tally. Because we have reports that say a dam is 80% complete. In some cases it doesn't even exist. Or a road is 40% complete, when it is probably 5% complete, as it were. The inaccurate or reporting of the status of development projects. I will venture to say this, that because we work in the silos in most cases, truth be told, we have lost a lot of opportunities in implementing national projects because of the differentials we have in information. We are told one thing when the reality on the ground is actually another, and that's how we lose resources. I was in Meru 4 weeks ago, where there are 213 national projects. In certain cases, some bonds that are reflected in our budget books that have been constructed just don't exist. They are not there, but they are reflected in the books that we spend resources on them and they have been built. Inadequate public participation. Sometimes, truth be told, the public sometimes doesn't get to know where we are moving to and what we are doing. And I'm going to ask you, honorable members, that we have an historic opportunity to enact a legislation on public participation. This has continued to be a moving target. No one knows when public participation is sufficient, when it is quality, and what kind of public participation to expect. And you have kept seeing court decisions of one kind or the other all the time on public participation issues and stuff like that. Then the suboptimal use or loss of funds. This is the most amazing thing. I have a case where, for example, I was in Isiolo, and I'm going to give you very practical examples. I was in Isiolo and listening to the county security team and colleagues there, tell me about a dam that we were supposed to have constructed and where we have spent so much money, and it was abandoned somewhere in the middle because they discovered that the geotechnical survey that was done was wrong, and therefore the actual construction cannot happen. Resources have been lost in the process, and then a lot of money has been lost in the process because we do not coordinate. Because we work in synergies and so on. I can venture to say here honestly, as a citizen of this country, that if we worked differently and worked smart, we would have saved a lot of our budget resources. We lose a lot of resources because of poor coordination, poor management, and lack of synergy in the way in which we do. And lastly, of course, weak performance and management. It's a fact. It's as a public servant to be honest and say, in certain cases, critical role players in the management of projects are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. Because how else would they give inaccurate information? How else would people tell me, when I've gone to a county, there are 213 projects, I have a report that I've been given by officers, and I start going down the report one by one. Some of the things that are on that report that I'm told have been done don't even exist. And in certain cases, the county government is claiming to have put resources on that project, the national government is claiming to have put resources on that project. So that kind of is a serious challenge that we face in national development. And I'm making this case because this is the more reason why we need better coordination and to build synergies in the management of national projects. Because if we have conversations with members of parliament, ever since the president issued Executive Order number 1 and the regional meetings I've had with members of parliament, I have learned a lot personally. Because when I sit down with members, for example, of Nyanza region and listen to a number of projects that they are talking about, when I sit down with members of parliament from Nyandarua or from Meru, for example, as I did yesterday, you learn a lot about how we have lost opportunities in development because we at the headquarters will be given a report and we think in our books what is there is actually truthful. But you see, the members of parliament are the ones who are there every day. They're the ones who deal with the public every day. They will tell you whether or not that police station exists or doesn't exist. I could be told if the parliament is asking me this station, yes. When you find a police that exists, all the even and not been done. And I say examples. Our major police station in Isiolo is operating from what was a colonial concentration camp. And if you go to the books backwards, even before the Jubilee administration came to power, you will notice that several times in the past, over 10 years ago, a huge amount of resources was voted purportedly because they're operating from buildings of the colonial concentration camp, as it were. So this is the reason why the president formed a coordination framework so that we all come together and begin to have conversations one with another. And the rationale for that is, of course, so that we have effective decision making. And I will demonstrate to you shortly what talking to each other can do within a very short period of time. There is bottom-up reporting on national government projects so that the chief and the assistant chief and the member of parliament, who are the people who interact with this project, can tell you the truth. So that you have a document before you, you have the headquarter report, but you can also deal with people who know the truth about what you're being told on the ground. We need also to have a culture of effective problem solving. I gave this example that the greatest enemy to progress in our country, I will be very blunt with you, the greatest enemy to progress is bureaucracy. Moving documents from one point to another. I mean, sometimes approvals in certain areas require 7 signatures. I mean, God knows why you need 7 people to approve a very simple and straight document that 2 people will sit and agree and move forward. And this huge bureaucratic maze becomes a hideout for inefficiency, incompetence, theft of public resources, and so on and so forth. Then, effective monitoring and evaluation so that you actually are telling yourself the truth about what is going on.